Hi, this is Catherine Gillette, creator of the Hero Method. Thanks for checking out our site. First, let me tell you the important stuff you'll get out of listening to these 3 mini presentations. You already know this. Information is important, but story is essential. And not just any story, mythic story. Now, what I mean by mythic is the timeless and universal story motifs that human beings are hardwired to resonate with. In just a few seconds, I'll take you through what these mythic story motifs are, why they're essential in storytelling, and how they became the foundation of the Hero Method. In part 2, I'll take you on a brief exploration of the science behind the Hero Method. In just minutes, we'll go from brain science to timeless story motifs, and what you'll discover is what really drives your audience's actions and how to use story motifs as the keys to the human unconscious to open up powerful connections, what I call human being to human being connections, with every piece of communication you create. Then, in part 3, I'll take you through 4 easy steps to creating human being to human being, or HB to HB, connections with your audience. Why are human being to human being connections so important? Well, it's because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And creating a more personal connection with your audience means they are more likely to like and trust you, which in turn means visiting more pages on your website, remembering more information about you, taking positive action through the sales cycle, and having positive associations and enduring relationships with your organization and your brand. And if you click on the link below the video in part 3, I'm giving you a gift, a tool you can print out and start using today that will guide you through those 4 steps towards creating those kinds of human being connections with your audience. My sincere hope is that you'll learn a lot that's of genuine value to you in this exploration of the Hero Method. If you have any questions or if I can be of help in any way, just click my photo on the right of the screen anytime you want. Okay, let's get started. And it all begins with a smile. So I was driving one day, I stopped at a red light, and I could see my peripheral vision, a car pull up, and I could tell by the car's behavior that it was going to be turning to the right. And so I just glanced over at the car, and the driver looked at me, smiled, and drove on. And then I was at a stop sign and walked in front of me, and as she passed in front of my car, she just glanced over at me, smiled, and walked on. And then I was in a parking lot, and it was a crowded Saturday, and cars were inching along, looking for that one spot that was open. And I was passing another car very slowly, and as our cars passed, I glanced over at the driver. The driver looked at me, smiled, and drove on. I thought, this is so strange. What is up today that everybody's smiling? And I pulled into my spot, and then I realized that I had been smiling. So people had been smiling in reaction to me smiling. And there's actually a scientific word for this. In the field of neuroscience, it's called emotional contagion. And what you'll learn in these few minutes is exactly how stories can be as contagious as a smile. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my journey. So it all begins back in college as a major in psychology, minor in anthropology. I had a real interest, a passion for history and the mythic motifs of story, and studied those for 25 years before I decided to write a novel. And what I wanted to do, because most historical fiction is long on fiction and short on history, and so what I decided to do was weave mythic motifs into history, and to create a story from there. And so I did. I wrote an award-winning novel that wove these mythic motifs into the facts of history. Meanwhile, in the marketing world, I'm working there 25, 30 years now, and I've been a messaging and strategist and copywriter for 16 years. And I thought, well, if the mythic motifs can work to bring history alive, and to really connect with audiences, connect history with audiences, maybe the mythic motifs can be used similarly in the marketing world. And that's where the hero method was born. So now I'd like to know what your favorite story is of all time, and I would love, really, I would love to hear from you. You can click on that picture on the right and let me know what your favorite story of all time is, and then also tell me what your favorite scene is from that story. So think of your favorite story. It could be a movie, it could be a book, it could be a story that somebody told you, and just pick one. Some people have many of them, but just pick one story, and then think about your favorite scene in that story and visualize it in your mind. And I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Favorite story, favorite scene. And again, I'd love to hear what that is, what your favorite story is and what it's about, what you think it's about, and what your favorite scene is. That would be really fun. And you'll know why I'm asking this in just a few minutes. Okay, so here's another list of, right, their stories. So what do these stories have in common? Yes, they're all movies. What else do they have in common? Are they Oscar winners? Well, they have all won Oscars, but only Avatar won for Best Picture. What they are is they are all box office record breakers. For example, Avatar was the worldwide record box office sales. E.T. is the most weekends at #1. These are worldwide record breakers. Titanic was the most consecutive weekends, and Dark Knight was the biggest opening week. Now, why is this important? Because there's something about these stories that's so powerful that human beings around the world will pay good money to see time and time again. Now, the question in my mind is, what is that thing? Well, what these also have in common is they are all based on the mythic motifs of the hero's journey. What do I mean by that? The hero's journey was first identified by comparative mythologist Joseph Campbell back in 1949 with his seminal book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces. You may be familiar with his interview. Bill Moyers interviewed him on PBS quite a few years ago. Campbell even coined the term monomyth to describe the hero's journey because in all mythologies, across all cultures throughout time, the stories are all framed with the same mythic motifs. So I'm going to take you very quickly around a few of the motifs that the hero method addresses, and these are just a few of the motifs that are possible in the hero's journey, but just to give you an idea of what I mean and what is meant by the hero journey mythic motifs. So for example, it's the ordinary world and what's lacking, the heroic ideal, a call to adventure, the shadow, crossing the threshold, the treasure, the wounded land is healed. These are all mythic motifs. Now, remember the scene I asked you to remember about your favorite story? I am willing to bet money, and again, I'd love to hear from you about this. I'm willing to bet money that the scene you remember was expressing one of these mythic motifs. And the thing is, again, all of those movies listed before, they all were based on these mythic motifs. So I want you to write this down, either physically write it down or write it down in your memory because it's really, really important. The stories that human beings remember best are based on the hero's journey motifs. So now that you have some background on me and the hero method, click on the next module and you'll discover the science behind this revolutionary approach to messaging and visioning. See you there.